All right, so we're starting our new unit, graphing, and basically I want to do a quick overview of the types of graphs we're going to do and then go into more detail about the first couple we need to focus on at the start. These are the graphs we're going to do in this unit: line, circle, bar, histogram, pictograph, infographics. So I will go through what each of them are really quickly. This is an example of a line graph. You've seen them before. It's a broken line graph. This is a bar graph where you have the different bars to compare. This is a circle graph right here. This is where we're looking at like the percents and seeing them represented out of 100%. This is an example of a histogram. There's lots of types. This is one used in geography, so it's comparing population of males and females in a country. They're basically like a special type of bar graph. This is a pictogram, so this is where you have these pictures. This is where you have these pictures that represent something. In this case, each barrel is that many gallons of oil. So Canada has that many. Mexico has that many times 2.5 because they have 2.5 barrels, etc., etc. This is the last kind, which you've probably seen on Facebook or something like that. This is an infographic. So it's where you see a lot of information and pictures all related about one topic. In this case, it's freshwater in Canada. So let's focus on line graphs, or in this case, broken line graphs. Broken line just means, see how it's all zigzaggy? If it was like a straight line, it'd be a line graph. Broken line is where it's zigzags like that. And this is a bar graph. So a line graph is where you compare two things. Usually there's going to be a number scale on the side, and then there's things that you're looking at on the bottom. Usually they're related. So for example, here they're all years, so it's showing kind of the pattern over time. You wouldn't do something like names like Tyler, Shao, Joe, etc. Those wouldn't be on a line graph. They usually are to show things that are directly related. If you want to compare something directly related, that's where bar graphs make more sense. So in this case, they actually did years, so it's the same. Usually, bar graphs can be turned into line graphs, but another example you would do is something where you're comparing different things. So like, let's say you ask people, what's their favorite color? And so there's like a yellow answer, a blue, black, etc., and each one was their own bar. The idea with a bar graph is it's really easy to see right away, oh, that one's the highest, that one's the lowest. And you can kind of see what like the average is. Oh, they're all about that tall. The bar graph is good because you can see patterns over time. So you say, oh, look, it started really low and got really high. That's how it changed. The other important thing with graphs, so in this graph, it's actually, if we read it carefully, it's about the suicide rate in Nunavut, in Inuit people living in Nunavut, and the rest of Canada. So as we can see in Canada, suicide exists. It's not at zero, and it's been pretty steady for the past, what is that, like almost 50 years, 40 years in this graph. But obviously in Nunavut, it's going up by a lot. We can see that right here. So when you look at this graph, you not only have to see, oh, look, there's a pattern, it's increasing, there's a difference between these two, but you have to ask stuff like, why? What's happening that's causing this to happen? Because this is obviously a significant issue, and we want to figure it out so we can help people and change the situation there. If you look at something like this, like the immigration graph, this is the number of immigrants in different periods, we might ask, why was this year so low? Why was this year so high? Was there some kind of policy that happened or something really appealing or not appealing about Canada in these periods? If we know those answers, we can help make better decisions going forward. So, the mathy part of this is where we take information and we have to be able to graph it. So let's do one example really fast together. Here we have homicide rate in Vancouver. So here is the years, here is the rate, the number of people that were murdered in Vancouver. So I'm going to put the years on the bottom, years, and I'm going to put the number on the side, because that way we can compare to see how tall they are. The way you think is what you want to compare. If you want to compare the year should be over here, but you would never want to do that. So I'm going to put 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Those are all going to be points that we're going to put dots at, and you'll notice they go on these notches. If we were doing it as a bar, each one would get its own square. So we would put like 07 is that part. 08 is that part, 9, 10, etc. So then we put our numbers It looks like the lowest number is 6 and the highest number 21. So my scale, I think we could even just go by ones. I'm going to go by twos just because I want to make it a little shorter. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14, 18, 22. Cool, that has all of it. I skipped some numbers, but I kept the same pattern going. Every notch represents 2. So let's do the first one. 07 is at 21, so it's actually really high. That goes up there. 21 is going to be halfway in between 20 and 21, or 22, right there. And then 2008 is 20, so I go to 08, and I go up to 20, and I put a dot. And then 2009 is 19. There we go. And then we have 10 for 2010. Man, it dropped a lot. And you get the idea, you keep going. Then what you would have to do, and I'll do it in red, is you connect all the dots like that. And then whatever else would be on the graph, they'd be connected that way. That's a line graph. And as we can see by looking at it, it was fairly consistent at the start for the first 3 years, and then there was a huge drop. That's what I noticed right away. Let's do the same thing over here on this bar graph. We use the same scale too. 2, 4, 6, 10, 14, 18, 22. Cool. All right, so for 2007, we have 21. So let's put the number up to 21, and then we make a bar that's that wide. And then, sorry, usually with bar graphs, you leave a little bit of space in between each one. So we have 08 is right here, and 2008 was 20. So we go up to 20, and we'll put a line across the top and draw our bars. Should really use a ruler, try and make this straight. It's a little weird on the computer. And then 2009 is here, and it is 19 people. So I will draw my bar across like that. And let's do the last one, 2010. And it is 10 people. So it's that short little bar right there. So again, you got the same idea. You usually color these in. And again, with a bar graph, it's easy to see, oh, well, these 3 first years are pretty standard, and then this year is obviously much, much shorter. That's the basics of doing line and bar graphs. It's not too complicated. The important thing I want you to focus on is those kind of questions. Like why? Why is this happening? What's going on here? And identifying that this is worth looking at. Now, there are some examples where a bar graph is good and a line graph does not make any sense. If we look here, I just looked this up online. So this is the prices of different game systems. We have the names of the system and the prices on the side. We need to think, okay, what kind of graph makes sense? Should I do a line graph? Well, we're going to put the price on the side so we can compare the prices, and then the names on the bottom. These names aren't all related. They're not all the same thing. So it wouldn't make sense to do a line graph. We're actually going to do a bar graph for this. So the idea is you would write Xbox, and you'd write PlayStation, and you'd write Switch, and you'd draw bars for each of them, showing their prices. So now let's look at this one, and you think, which one should we use? Should we use a bar graph? Should we use a line graph? You asked a group of 10 people how much money they earn in a month. And you're going to record the name of each person and the money. So, does that make sense to do a bar graph or a line graph? Oops, my bad. You're going to do a bar graph. So you're going to write their names along the bottom, and then each person's going to get their own bar. Because each name is its own thing. They're all separate. Here, record the salary of one person over 20 years. So you think, are we going to do a line graph? Or are we going to do a bar graph? In this case, we actually are going to do a line graph. Because the years that we record on the bottom, like 08, 09, 2010, 2011, etc., those are all kind of related. And so we can show the kind of pattern, of what's happening to that person over time. You could technically do a bar graph if you wanted, showing like the different years and how his salary is getting higher and higher, except for this one year where we got a pay cut, whatever. It's up to you. Line graph makes more sense to me in this kind of situation. Oh, and then this would be the money on the side. So that's all I wanted to talk about with these. That's the basics of the most basic type of graph we're going to do.